What can I do when I have bad teammates? This is the most asked question that I received, and the answer is pretty simple. Play a hero that can win a 1v5 situation like this one.
Oh, hell no!
The only problem is, most of these heroes are really hard to play, which is why we unravel the secrets how to play Wanwan to perfection today. So you can do this as well.
My aim is impeccable!
Let's start with her skills. Her passive is probably the bread and butter in her kit. Firstly, there's a mark placed on the enemy upon dealing any damage to them. The mark will reveal the enemy for 5 seconds, and the timer will be reset when you deal damage again within that 5 seconds. Unless you have popped every mark, because then it will go away after 5 seconds regardless if you attack the enemy or not. But if you popped every mark, the enemy is most likely dead anyway before that happens. Each mark she hit deals true damage, and for each mark that was hit, Wanwan's damage to that enemy will be increased by 10% and up to 30%. Meaning, always try to get those things away. The next thing about her passive is her ability to dash after every basic attack or skill. I guess you've all seen already a Wanwan jumping around like crazy before. The speed of her jumping depends on her attack speed. With a full attack speed build, she's even faster than any hero with rapid boots. Do note though that you must turn off attack assist to do basic attacks and dashes near targets. Or else you will be doing something like this. Here is a screenshot of how you should configure your whole settings for Wanwan. You can also go through thin walls at the base, the mid-river walls, most of the end parts of the jungle walls, and the end part of the turtle/lord wall. If you got stuck, try to trigger the sideway animation, for example with your first skill, as this works the best when going through walls. Apart from the 2 official passive effects, there's also a third hidden one. She will get 30% attack speed for 2 seconds after she killed an enemy hero, which is a perfect effect for a devastating ultimate chain. Next is her first skill. Wanwan throws her bird start in the direction of your aim, and shortly after throwing it, the 3 daggers will return to her. They will be slowed down by 30% for 1.5 seconds, and if the enemy was hit by 2 daggers, they will be immobilized for 0.5 seconds. This skill is essential to activate her ult, but also gives her some security. Here I was expecting that the enemy saber tries to touch my cattail, so I threw my daggers into this bush to reveal him. Once I saw that he engages, I just needed to activate my Wind of Nature to neutralize his damage, and could even pop my emote before killing him. So always check the sus bushes. Next we have her second skill, or her free purify spell, call it as you like. Wanwan will deal damage in a small area around her and will remove all debuffs and CC effects that were applied on her. These include but are not limited to this freaking stuffed animal, stuns, silence, knockups, and everything else except suppression. It also removes the mark from other heroes like Selena or Brody. As a rule of thumb, if Purify can cleanse it, Wanwan's second skill can do it as well. The only difference to Purify is of course that Wanwan's second skill doesn't give you immunity from CC effects after casting it. It only removes all the current effects that were applied to Wanwan. So be wary of casting it too early. Now let's move on to her. According to Moon, I'm super balanced ultimate that took some ages to balance, but even now it's still not balanced, but please put the normal nerfs because I love my main. After breaking all the marks of an enemy and listening to their last prayers, Wanwan is able to unleash her devastating flying untargetable machine gun ultimate on the enemy. Once she activates her ult and is in the air, she will be completely untargetable and invincible for the duration of her ult. This means any damage, including from the towers and the base, will not be able to damage her at all. Totally balanced. One balancing attempt Muton made was that Wanwan can no longer aim her ult at any enemy hero. So you can't just break the marks on an inflexible tank anymore and hand on the poor squishies who didn't know their tank's IQ is lower than his KDA. But as you already heard me saying, it was an attempt. Because you can just lower the tank's HP to almost 0 with your basic attacks, activate your ult to kill the troll in 0.2 seconds, and then hunt down the squishies. But before I keep gushing about how good her ultimate is, let me explain how it actually works. I probably should have started with that. The duration of her ultimate is 2.5 seconds and will be extended by 1 second and up to 3 times for each enemy hero you kill. Assists don't count, so dear Angela users, please don't KS for just 5 seconds, okay?
Oh shit, here we go again.
Emotional, damn it!
The more attack speed you have, the more daggers she fires towards the enemy. And since her physical attack bonus from items is pretty low, you want to have as many attack speed items as possible. The basic goal is to kill the enemy you target first as fast as possible, so you can start the chain reaction that gives you maniacs and savages non-stop. Here's a simple math example. Yeah, I'm sorry, it will be quickly over. If you manage to kill bot Layla 1 within 0.5 seconds, you will have 2 seconds left on your ultimate, which will be increased by another second, so the next victim of your ult has to eat it for a total of 3 seconds. Which most heroes can sustain when you have your full build. Which means the next enemy also have to eat your ult for a couple of seconds, and so on. This is the result of this broken ult. I mean, look at all those poor bot laders. Do know that her ultimate range is now really short compared to her pre-nerf. So you gotta be a little extra careful about finding that sweet timing where all the enemies are grouped together so that the range of your ult can reach them without any problem. Also, enemies inside the bush without any vision will not be targeted by her ult. So be wary of that. All attacks from her ult count as basic attacks, which means all basic attack item effects work with it. They only take 35% of these effects into account though. With Demon Hunter Sword equipped, one single basic attack deals 7,559 damage to the damage bot. But a single attack from my ult only deals 2,648 damage. This also means she won't deal any damage to basic attack immunity skills, like Karina's first skill. Now we talked about how devastating her skills are, but knowing these skills alone will not let you become a 1-1 master. This you can only achieve when you can activate her ult in any situation in about 1.36 seconds. The first thing you need to think about is, who am I targeting? For me, it really depends on the current game situation. Generally, you should avoid targeting burst heroes like Eudora, Saber or Hayabusa, as they can just burst you down before you even get the chance to get your ult. Heroes with immunity skills like Lunox, Karina, Lancelot or Kadita, or late game DPS monsters like Mia, Nathan, Layla or Moskov are also not good targets. As well as a hard counters Fulvius, Mincy and Kufra. So the perfect target is any hero without instant burst or immunity skills. To name some of the most popular heroes in every rank who can be good targets: Direct Rock, Fredrin Badang, Vale, 𝐾𝐲𝐬𝐬, Yin, Balmond, Alok, Johnson, Brody, Beatrix, Atlas, Estes, Stamus, Endlock, Xavier, Hilda, Clint, Alofit, Freya, Droid or Double Apollo. Now we just need to know how we efficiently activate our ults. Generally and probably obviously, you should never just run openly toward the enemy team. Only do that to a lonely and good target, and only if you're confident that you can get your ult. I often play Wanwan more like an assassin, who just waits in the bush for a prey to appear in front of her. With her 3 weaknesses, you can get your ult in just 1 second, which means the ambushed enemy has almost no time to react. The first attack determines where the weaknesses appear. If you're in the early game, make sure to not set them like this, where the enemy can hide one weakness in the wall. Little fun fact, if you hit the weaknesses right in the middle, the right one will be destroyed first. So what you usually do is throw your first skill behind the enemy, so the returning dagger can hit the weakness at the back, but also to slow or immobilize your victim. While using your first skill, you should jump forward to be in range for your basic attack, but also slightly right or left to target the first side weakness. Once you have destroyed the first side weakness, make sure to jump to the other side to hit the last weakness, and make your enemy cry in pain. This is how it looks in reality. I threw my dagger behind Hanabi and Gord and decided to target Hanabi. So I jumped to the left so my returning dagger hits her back, but also to hit the mark there. Afterwards, I quickly hit the right mark and boom! Double kill! I strongly suggest that you train the activation for a couple of minutes in the training mode, so you get a feeling for how it should be done. Now, let's talk about how to play her in the early, mid and late game. Generally, you can make any enemy MM retreat on level 1 if you use Inspire. Just yeet your first skill behind them to immobilize them, rain down your daggers on them and retreat before they do it back to you. Like this, they're often so low that they must recall before taking the first wave. If there are babysitters involved though, play it safe and farm until you have your ult. The last thing you want to happen is that you miss a minion wave, or worse, die early. The same goes when you don't have Inspire available. Wait until you're level 4 before doing anything crazy. In the early game, there are 3 marksmen who can make your life a living hell. A Beatrix who can aim her sniper will be annoying AF. 𝐼𝐬𝐧's ability to run around while shooting makes it pretty hard to immobilize her. And Melissa's doll can zone you out pretty heavily. A very good Moskov, Kimmy, Clint or Brody player can be also very challenging. But every other MM is literally food for you and your ult. Other than that, follow rule number 1. Always pay attention to the map and don't get ambushed. If you got the upper hand over your counterpart and destroyed the first turret, you can start jumping around mid to help your team breaking down this turret as well, and support them in ganks. Wait for nice sets before jumping in, or punish out of position enemies who run around like headless chickens. Don't forget to defend your own lane though. Clear your wave, jump to the mid, create chaos there, and jump back to the next wave. If multiple enemies are dead or they forgot that you exist, push your second turret through as well. If you lost out in the early game for some reason though, you come back here and watch the whole guide again. You stay as hidden as possible and try to close the farm gap, since there is nothing worse than being an underfarmed kitten. In the late game, you make sure to take as many objectives as you can. Wanwan is great at split pushing, as her jumping is so fast that she can escape almost every enemy. Or just burst down lonely defenders. Also make sure to attack the Lord with your allies and join the team fights at the right moment. Don't jump in first when all enemies still have their dashes and ults available. Let your allies jump in first and tank the damage, and enter the gank once the skills have been thrown out of the window. Then you have the chance of a pretty easy Maniac or Savage, especially with Inspire. If you have headless chickens as allies though, use the ambush tactic I told you earlier, as you can easily take down 2 enemies like this. It's always easier fighting 3 enemies with your bad allies than fighting 5. Also make sure to target the enemy's base when you have the chance, and activate Inspire and Wind of Nature to fend off any physical damage while doing so. And boom, another easy victory. Now to the part so many of you have been waiting for. We talk about her items, spells and emblems. Well, her one emblem that you should always use. You should always use the Marksman emblem, as this gives you the most attack speed bonus out of all the emblems. And attack speed is the key to your victory. We will put 3 points on attack so that we can farm better in the early stages, and also to torture our counterpart better. The next 3 points we put on attack speed, as we need as much attack speed as possible. And lastly, we will use the talent weakness finder, so that we can catch enemies more easily with our first skill. Basic attacks will have a 20% chance to proc its effect, where it will slow the enemy by a whopping 90%, plus slow their attack speed by 50%. You may think that a 20% chance is too little, but think for yourself. How many basic attacks will you be doing with Wanwan? Yeah, pretty much all the time. Now to her spells. You have so many choices here, and I want to name them all. Inspire. Yeah, that's it. Just Monica. Inspire. The heal it gives is really helpful to survive some situations where you are really low, and since Inspire increases your attack speed and more importantly extends the attack speed cap, you can delete the enemy's existence with just one well-set ult. Now to her build. No, she still doesn't need any boots even if Moonton would like you to use them. Corrosion size gives you a ridiculous amount of attack speed when it's fully stacked, 65% to be precise, which is exactly what Wanwan needs in the early game. She can jump around faster and her ult deals more damage. She will also deal an extra 80 physical damage from each hit of her basic attack. And she can slow enemies up to 20% as well, which lets you catch up to them much quicker. Pro tip, when building Corrosion Scythe, you should always build Swift Crossbow first, which is basically the small version of Corrosion Scythe. The second core item is Demon Hunter Sword. It lets you deal 9% of the target's current HP as physical damage, which is a nightmare for any tanky hero, as they can watch how their huge HP get melted down. Remember, your ult's damage count as basic attack, so this effect will trigger with each of those hits. Once you've got these two items, your damage will start to become broken. Quick note, the damage will most likely be reduced from 9% to 8% with the next patch. Next we have Wind of Nature. Its active skill lets you become immune to any physical attack for 2 seconds, which is brain deadly overpowered. You can still even move and attack once it's activated, and you can cast it almost once per minute, which allows you to use it very frequently. If one of those physical burst fuckers like Saber or Hayabusa targets your cat tail non-stop, you can build this item already after Corrosion Scythe. Next we have Wind Talker. This item will simply increase your attack speed by another 40%. So faster jumps and more daggers from your ult. It also gives you a bit of crit chance that could become very useful, and the passive helps you to clear minion waves faster, so you won't be late for the next team fight. Now it's most likely time for Malefic Roar. As the game reaches the later stages, the enemy heroes will start to get tankier. To penetrate through the thick armor, you get Malefic Roar, which penetrates through up to 55% of the enemy's defense. Now that already sounds really cool, but did you know that the damage from Corrosion Scythe and Demon Hunter Sword can actually benefit from the percentile physical pen as well? The damage from those items is regarded as physical damage, so physical pen synergizes very well with it. Malefic Roar together with Demon Hunter Sword is a true tank killer combo. As the last item, I use Scarlet Phantom. It gives you a nice amount of crit chance and even more attack speed that is crucial when using your ult with Inspire, as you can actually reach the max cap of 500% attack speed. You must be confident enough to be a full glass cannon though, which is why I would rather recommend these items for beginners. Athena Shield against burst mages, or Immortality, which gives you an extra life. Just make sure to throw it into the trash once you use the passive revive effect. Another two useful items are Rose Gold Meteor, which offers you some nice magic defense, physical lifesteal and a shield that can save your tail, and 𝐶 to counter fackers like Estes, which also gives you some nice extra damage now, so it's not a wasted item anymore. Items that I avoid are firstly Berserker's Fury. The crit gained from this item is unmatched, and the damage this item lets you deal is probably one of the best. But the damage from this item is basically too high, as dumb as this sounds, and you killed squishies often before you got your ult, which lets you become a sitting duck among many enemies. And I think I don't need to tell you that this is bad. When we take a look at cost efficiency, it's also way more expensive than Wind Talker, and offers no attack speed, which means we can only build it as the last item. Secondly, we have Golden Staff. As I already said, her ult only gets 35% of her item effects, so using crit items lets you deal way more damage than the extra DHS bonus. Now let's talk about her counters and how to deal with them. As I previously said, Wanwan has almost no hero counters, and I stick by that. If you are really good with her. I have no problem with Khufra or Mincy, since I'm ultra alerted whenever they're in the enemy team. There are still items though, so her biggest counters are actually Wind of Nature and Winter Truncheon. These items can nullify a large portion of her ultimate, and in higher ranks almost every player is using them against you. If an enemy has equipped them, you need to know their cooldown timers. Wind of Nature has a 70-second cooldown and Winter Truncheon a 100-second cooldown. Meaning if one ult failed, the next one will definitely hit them if you don't waste your time. Dominance Ice has a huge physical defense bonus and lowers your attack speed, and Blade Armor lowers your crit damage, has the highest physical defense of any item, and has a return damage mechanic where you will receive a portion of the basic attack damage you dealt. This combined with Vengeance on a tanky enemy can become deadly, as your HP goes down to 0 before theirs does. Now to our hero counters. As mentioned, heroes who have a huge burst damage like Saber, Hayabusa and Eudoro are a pain in the A for you. But as long as you avoid direct 1v1 situation against them, you should be fine. What's more annoying are heroes who have damage immunity skills like Karina, Natalia or Lunox. When dealing with them, you need to make sure that their immunity skill is on cooldown before you use your ult. Faramis' ult also kills off your ult because the enemy receives damage immunity for 1.3 seconds if you deleted their ult HP bar. That's why I always ban Faramis when playing Wanwan. Lolita's shield can block Wanwan's ult and also her first skill, which is pretty annoying. So again, knowing when this skill is on cooldown is key. Belaric's counter attacks combined with blade armor and vengeance are deadly as well, which is why you should avoid attacking him with basic attacks. In the late game, many marksmen can also counter you, since they can clap you before you even get the chance to activate your ult. Moskov and Nathan has a repositioning skill, which makes it super hard to get your ult, and Mia can just RKO you out of nowhere. You really need quick reflexes and wind of nature to avoid these attacks. Long-range high-damage marksmen are also annoying AF. Layla and Leslie can shoot you to the moon before you even got close enough to yeet your first skill behind them. Leslie is even scarier as she deals true damage, which can't be blocked by Wind of Nature. Now to the anti-dash counters. Phoveos, Mincita, and Khufra. Khufra is the easiest to deal with among the three. If he managed to slap his balls into your face, it can be problematic to escape from it. But since you always pay attention to the minimap and make sure to not get ambushed, you can avoid it pretty easily. Mincy is another story after his revamp though. He just deals so much damage and has a perfect skill set to not let you get away. Once you start cuddling with his boys, you're pretty much dead, as his ult doesn't allow you to dash at all. The hook from him is also much better against Wanwan than Franco's hook, as the time to remove it is very short. And lastly, we have a supposedly biggest nightmare, Phoveos. With your dashes, you will always activate his ult, so there's basically no escape. Phoveos will follow our 15-year-old cat girl wherever she goes. So when you can't outrun him, fight him. Attack him without dashing while using Inspire, because like this you can easily get your ult and kill him. Also slap a magic defense item on her to sustain his damage. Now go and play your first matches with this OP hero, or watch this video where I'll tell you the story of Wanwan. See you over there!